Hey everybody, welcome to the JLS Gaming Show. This is episode 9. What you guys just saw was the world premiere of our new trailer or intro. You know what I'm trying to say? You probably saw a lot of your favorite games, little sprites in there, interspliced with my family and my son there. That's almost my height. You know, by the time we drop another trailer, he'll be taller than me. You know what I'm trying to say? And it's not that I'm a midget, man. He's just I don't know what's in the water down here in Florida. But today we got, besides talking about news, game rewind, and stuff like that, we got a very special guest. We got a longtime friend of mine, right? In terms of game years, I've probably known him for 500 game years. You know what I'm trying to say? Longer if you're somebody that plays The Sims, right? But anyway, you know, so my buddy for a long time, that game dragon, Bill Barberi. You know what I'm trying to say? Hey, Bill, you know, just tell everybody a little bit about yourself real quick, and then we just get right into the show.
Well, AK, thank you for having me on the show. It's definitely a pleasure. I've been in the media industry for a very long time, so I've actually had the distinct pleasure of seeing the Xbox right before it was released. I've been a gamer since as long as I can remember. Street Fighter is definitely one of my favorite retro games, and I think I own every single iteration of it.
Beautiful.
And it's just a wonderful time in gaming right now. I mean, I can't believe that we're up to the PlayStation 5. It just shows how many years have gone by, and to see how it's evolved in those years, to see all the growth that Sony has put behind it, and the wealth of competition that's in the industry right now. I mean, I don't know if you remember, I think when we were kids, our parents were yelling at us that games would never go anywhere or never do anything except rot the brain. And now it is a multi-billion-dollar industry that pulls in about $152 billion a year with a 9% annual growth year over year. So it is an insane time and a wonderful time to be in gaming.
Yeah, you know, and you said a couple of things that's really I want to just touch on, right? First off, Street Fighter 2 is iconic, right? And I remember when that first showed up in the arcade, that first showed up in pizzerias, you know, around the block and stuff like that, and the competition, right? Because up till that point, really a lot of arcade games with probably just racing games, right? There really weren't that many that people would get competitive in, and competitive juices flowing, man. And then going to the arcades and stuff like that, you know. And what you said earlier with games and how they've grown, you know, I'm trying to say, I was a very, very, very young buck, you know, I'm trying to say, and I'm dating myself still here, around when the first game, so I was in diapers probably, right? When it was the first game crash. But then, you know, games came back. And the fortunate part with me, right, which is insane, is that my dad actually got a Coleco. My dad got an Atari, right? My dad got us that, you know, more for him and let us play with it or let us watch over his shoulder. And that was kind of cool, right? He also, you know, me and you, Bill, we're both IT people, right? That's our day jobs, right? Our passion are in games and whatever. And he got me my first computer too. And that got me into computers and everything like that, and changed the course of my career, because prior to that, I probably wanted to get into medicine and be a surgeon, but got into technology, really took my passion there, but really reigniting. And I think both of us have had conversations in the past, reigniting our passion for our first true love, you know, of which hip hop is one too. So I used to love her, right, from Common, great song and everything like that. But it's sort of that same kind of mantra that we have for video games, right? So getting into what, you know, one thing that we usually start this show with is what current or retro game have you been playing lately and why? So over the past week or two.
Yeah, so it's actually very interesting because I don't know if you had a chance to see the PC gaming show yesterday, but there were a lot of announcements that came out of the PC gaming show. And one of the announcements was Persona 4 Golden, which was if you were fortunate enough, it was a Vita title, and then before that, a PS2 title. And I was really excited. I read the rumors about this, and I was like, oh my God, I really hope they release this on PC. Like, this would be a godsend for me. And, you know, it was amazing that not only did they announce it, but they released it that day, and they released it for, I think it was $20 with all the HD uplift that you can think of. And so I instantly downloaded it and ran it on my 4K display. And I just started playing it. It's one of those games you got to pour about 120 hours into. So I'll probably be playing that and other games at the same time.
Yeah.
But not retro anymore, but Mortal Kombat made a huge comeback after Mortal Kombat 9, and seeing that evolution has been amazing too. And so, they also had a new update, right? And you got to think that I'd be seeing RoboCop and the Terminator fighting each other in a console game, right? Is insane. Like, these are things we dreamed of as kids. And so, like, those are things that are just keeping me going right now.
Yeah. And one thing that you brought up, right, with PC gaming, and a lot of the games get imported over. And I know later on in the discussion, we want to talk a little bit about PC gaming and when we talk about the next gen consoles. But I've seen a lot of YouTube videos lately showing mods for Resident Evil on the PC with Jill Valentine running around in like teeny bikinis, and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, these guys, they're first off, they're extremely creative. And second of all, like, it's just some funny stuff, right? So, but lately what I've been playing from a retro standpoint, ever so often, and I had a guy on YouTube he was posting a video talking in Spanish, right? I'll give him a shout out. I think his channel is El Rafias, and what he was playing was some old Donkey Kong Country, but his channel's in Spanish, and he talks about some of the technical stuff. So right off the bat, I remember I'm like, oh man, wasn't that the graphics? The sprites were done on a Silicon graphics. You know what I'm trying to say? On a Silicon graphics computer, and then they ported those over as the sprites. And I'm like, and then didn't that lead to, besides Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3, but into Super Mario RPG, which is just an all-time fave, man. And I replay that like other games. I replay that like every 2 or 3 years. So lately I've been doing that from a retro, just restarting it, playing it. I'm trying to say. But then what got me really right is on the PlayStation 5 reveal, which we're about to get into, right, was seeing the Miles Morales trailer. And as soon as I saw that, man, I was like, oh man, dude, that's insane. That's crazy, right? And then so it got me into saying, geez, I beat Spider-Man and immediately gave it to my son to play through. And then all the DLC came out. So, and I had the DLC, right? And I still haven't played it. So it's like, I'm like, let me pop this back in, get my fingers ready, get all excited. I'm trying to say, I'm hoping it's a launch title, and stuff like that. So with that said, one of the things I want to segue into and add in here, Bill, let's talk a little bit. I'm going to play the hardware trailer because this is what's been happening for the past 4 or 5 days, right? Real hype around it. A lot of memes around this, I'm trying to say how it looks. People saying it looks like their wireless router to vacuum cleaners and the whole nine, right? So I want to get your take as we play the reveal trailer. What's your take on the design, and what's your take on the reveal?
So it's interesting, right? Because I think every time Sony releases a console, their first iteration of that console always seems to lack the proper aesthetic. And I feel that after they go through their first revision, the console takes the form that it should have always taken. And so when you think about, I term of endearment, the Fat Boy PS3, right? When you look at that PS3 model, right, it was clunky, it was big. Folks had problems fitting it in their cabinet spaces. And then by the time you got to the next iterations and the Slims, it kind of evolved to what it needed to be, right? And so, I'm a big fan of kind of clean, sleek systems. Unfortunately, I don't think this is the go. It's a little odd, and I get it. Like, you want to stand out. But when you think about your tech space, right, and your living room, and you have, a beautiful Samsung monitor or 4K TV, right, and you have all these slim, nice, beautiful pieces of hardware, and then you put this thing here, and it looks a little monstrous, honestly. I'm not a big fan of what they did with the design here. Now, the controller is a different story. I love what they did with the controller. I think it is the perfect marriage of the PS4 controller and the Xbox controller. And I know, Microsoft's probably not going to be too happy about me saying that, but it's true. I always found the PS4 controller and the PS3 controller to be so much more comfortable when it came to fighting games. And so seeing that they've added the little bit of extra weight, because that was always a thing, it always felt a little too light. Now it looks like it's going to be the perfect controller for me. But I gotta say, I don't like the beehive. It just looks like something, it looks like something Alienware kind of tossed out.
Yeah, and I love the controller, man, and I get when they revealed that earlier, and you brought back some pain when you mentioned the PS3 fat, right? And I didn't take offense. I'm big bone. I'm trying to say, but it brought back some memories. A quick story, man. I had a PS3 fat launch day. I actually had the 60 gigabyte model as well as the 20, right? I had kind of one of each. And the thing I loved about it was the dual, I'm trying to say the not the dual, the backwards compatibility, right? The pure backwards compatibility on it. And to an extent, I had one that I never upgraded the firmware on. So to a 10, and shout out to GeoHot, to an intent where when the PS3s were hacked, right? So I had one of the earlier ones, and primarily it was hacked because at that time, remember, they eliminated the Linux function, right? Which they had the big class action lawsuit. I'm still waiting on my $20, man, or whatever it was, right? I filled it out. I don't know. The check must have got lost in the mail, dude. But, when they eliminated that, so I kept one, right? And then, so I'm making the story long, but what ended up happening, I had it, my son, who's now 12, when he was real little, right, jammed a bunch of Blu-rays into it. Probably some Pokemon or whatever. He's probably watching the show, man. And then I thought it was jammed up and messed up. Turns out, and it just nothing would show up on screen. So I just sold it for parts to somebody. I'm like, listen, man, somebody could sit here, years later, right? They could get a nice PS3 60 gigabyte backwards compatible, the ability to be hacked still because it's on the old firmware. Come to find out, then months later, I turn around, somebody picked it up for $20, right? I'm like, find a good home. It was the HDMI port that was busted. So,
oh wow!
So the system was actually fine, man. I'm plugging in other systems into it, and I'm just like, what the heck's going on? A cable box, and then I'm like, crap, the HDMI port is bad, right? Because when I plug it to another one, then I go, crap, that means my PS3 was fine, and I sold it to somebody for $20. So yeah, man. So
I got one worse for you. I picked up my console release day at Toys R Us.
Yeah.
And I was so excited.
Rest in peace, Toys R Us.
Yeah, I know. Rest in peace, Toys R Us. And I brought it home, and it came with Talladega Nights. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I had that.
Yeah. Talladega Nights. And I'll never forget this because I connected it, I turned it on, I was ready.
Yeah.
I put in this disc. I'm like, I have to see what the Blu-ray looks like, right? And then it died right there.
Wow.
And I had to wait an extra week and a half for Sony to send me a unit. And so while all my other buddies were playing, I was waiting for a new. And I tried to go back to Toys R Us and pick up another unit, and they were gone by then. And so it was just that is my painful experience of picking up my PS3 at that point.
Dude, the same that exact same story happened with me with the PS4 on launch day. And I lucked out because Amazon had some more on launch day. So kind of segue in while we're talking launch stories into this too, and the pre-orders for PS5. But yeah, so it died while me and my son were playing Knack, I think it was, and it died. And then I couldn't get through to Sony at all. But luckily, while I was trying to get through to Sony, Amazon with Prime was able to ship me a new one in 2 days. So I think that launch was a Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
2 days later, I was able to get back into the game, and then that other PS4 send it in for repair, and that's how I ended up having two PS4s at that time. But yeah, man, dude, and that's one of the things with getting a launch one, right? And I think
Yeah.
we're talking right now with size. I wanted to bring up this graphic, right? So this shows how much of a beast, because this I saw another comparison that compares all the PS ones, I mean PlayStations, and shows even a comparison to the PS Fat. So, but this right now is showing you a size comparison. That PS5, man, is huge.
It is monstrous.
Saying the size matter. You know what I'm trying to say? And I don't know, man. That thing, what entertainment center, especially when you're thinking, like you said earlier, minimalism, right?
Yeah.
And sleek and beauty. Like I'm okay with it kind of looking like that. It looks more like some kind of vampire person popping a collar the PS5, right? That's how I see it. But it's like I just think the hugeness, right? Because I mean, people comparing it to a router. Yeah, it could look like some of those sleek, routers out there, but dude, that thing's huge.
Well, the problem is it's not even uniform. I mean, and this is the disc version we're looking at, and you can see that, on one side, right, it's kind of clean, but then you get to the right, and it's totally like way off, and you're like, what's going on here? It looks like somebody slapped together a Frankenstein. And then my worry is if you look at the top, right, the little lips that kind of hang out at the top. I'm worried that one of those things is gonna catch on my unit when I try to pull it out or move it around, or maybe even break. I don't know. I mean, and I get it. It's like it's supposed to be really cool and look like a vapor chamber. So you have your cooling coming out there, I believe. But it's just, if you look at the other systems, and this is where, and don't get me wrong, I love PlayStation. I don't choose sides. I think both consoles, Xbox and PlayStation, release wonderful games. Their first party game. I love all everything that's released on both consoles. I'm a gamer at heart, so I try not to choose sides. But I do have to say that I like the clean aesthetic of the Xbox Series X. It reminds me of one of the micro or mini PCs that I build from time to time, and I think that's what they're going for, right? That's where we're going with this generation now. Like right now, we're challenging the PC master race, as it's said, right? And I think before there was a long distance between the two, and I think now they're knocking on their door and they're saying, hey, we're here, and we have a whole cloud system on both ends, right? That's going to support the next generation.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head, right? And I don't have right now up. I can search for it or whatever, the specs, right? But the specs are pretty similar. The thing that I think is what you said that I want to latch on to. It's the preparation for the future, right? So consoles are usually 6 to 8 years or whatever like that. Sometimes they can still have a life cycle where with the next generation, especially overseas, I'm trying to say, and with the game library, right? That's why so many people are huge about backwards compatibility, right? But I think what you said is spot on, right? So Microsoft with its architecture, what's to say, what's the code that they have, right? In the chip, in the architecture, what's the design that they took into account for cloud gaming, right? For compatibility with Azure, right? A lot of people don't understand the Xbox One Series X, and this is where me and you, Bill, right, being techies and being in the IT industry, that it's running basically a core for Win 10 and a hypervisor at that, right? Which is part of its architecture. So when you talk about what do they have in store on the Xbox Series X that can directly connect to the grid, right? The Azure, the fog computing that we, that it was being discussed. And I know me and you were talking about with Sega's announcement last week, right? And to be able to get that kind of grid computing aspect, right? And people have been doing that since the PS3 days with the cell processors too, right? When the grid computing, I think they were trying to sequence or something. They had that where you can loan processing power for them to sequence the genome or whatever, right? So it's like when you think about those kind of possibilities, you're like, holy crap, man! And with bandwidth, with most people having gigabit, like it's nothing now.
Yeah,
you know what I'm trying to say. Which is why they can create a diskless one, right? And that's kind of it's sad too, right? I was thinking about, honestly, and I'm going off on a little bit of tangent here. I was thinking of putting some money into GameStop, right? But just from a pure standpoint of thinking of it as a short position because it's low right now, and I think they're going to get that bump from this generation still actually having the discs, right? But also having a disc list option, right? But I truly believe, I thought last generation, or remember the uproar at whatever E3 or whatever when they were announcing them as disc lists, and even at that, where they were announcing it, and I think it was Sony, and then Sony backed away from it, where they were kind of making it with DRM, so I couldn't sit there and sell or trade or let you borrow my my disc even, right? So, and that's a topic for a future show that I really want to end up having on the whole collecting scene, right? And the fact of media, et cetera, et cetera. But one other thing, talking about, with respect to the PS5, and I had went live real quick. They don't have it available now, but this was something that really had people jump on it. I almost jumped on it, but it was $121 shipping. But where people were saying and hoping and praying that this was Play Asia when they went live a few days ago, was just a placeholder, which now it is a placeholder, but they actually took orders. And I have a buddy of the channel, Chris, that actually put in an order, sent me some email screenshots of his conversation with Play Asia. And the version that they had up there for $6.99 was the disc version, not the disc version, right? Was the disc version, and he did kind of secure one through Play Asia. And it's just a matter of when they get it from the supplier and things of that nature. So at the very least, one thing that he said that was a great point was, there's talk about, with all the COVID and impacting supply chain, which this leads into, I think people are going to make their dates, but I don't think they're going to make the dates with the numbers that they were expecting to have, which will drive up pricing on the secondary market. And I know what you were telling me, and I'll let you talk now while I drink a little bit of water, but where you were telling me that how that secondary market, right? So it might be that that's the only way people will be able to get units. What are your thoughts on the pricing? $6.99, $121 shipping at Play Asia. How do you think the pricing is going to come in, and what that market and secondary market is going to look like?
And so being someone that's dealt with imports, from a business perspective as well as an actual consumer, I can tell you that one, whatever you're importing things like of this nature from, even reputable sites like Play Asia, right? You're going to pay a premium. So that's $6.99, and we don't know what the real number really is going to be, right? Because Microsoft and Sony are in this war right now of who's going to release their price first, and then try to match, right? And so it's going to be a little bit of a waiting game, but that price isn't going to go down on Play Asia. And so even if it's $200 less, you get paid a $200 premium on top of it, because I'm going in saying that it's going to be $4.99.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I think. It's going to go $4.99. You got to pay $200 premium, and then you got to pay the shipping premium on top of that. And that's not going to guarantee that you're going to have a unit day one, because what considering where we are in our economic times, right? Importing things from Asia right now is problematic, especially electronics, right? Even if you're not paying attention fully to what's going on, from an economic standpoint, there are tariff wars back and forth between the U.S. and China, and there's a lot of tension right now. And so, even if you get your unit, for it to go through customs can take anywhere between 7 days to a maximum, I think, even 60 days. I've heard folks that have had to wait that long to get something out of customs.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and so I really wouldn't want to roll the dice. Now, I will tell you something that I would roll the dice on is that quick exchange right after the purchase, and you have to do this to purchase date, right? Because after that, folks will get smart and they jack up the price to a ridiculous amount. So you're going to pay an extra $150. Like, just prepare yourself for that. If you're not someone that is willing to stand on the long lines, or have 10 different browsers open on 5 different laptops trying to get a pre-order. And if you're going to be that person trying to secure it day one, and you didn't do your footwork to make sure you secured that unit, you go buy a secondhand, and whether that's Craigslist or that's something like eBay or whatever other secondhand buyer is out there, you're going to pay that money. And I'll be very honest with you, the Cyberpunk 2077 Xbox One X that just hit last week, I want to say I missed the boat on it, and I was checking every day, and I couldn't get one on pre-order. I tried, and what did I have to do? I had to go to eBay, and I found someone that was willing to sell it for just $100 more. And I said, you know what? Let me just do it, because the pain that's going to be to try and secure one of those units now is going to have me crying for days. And so I kind of took the pill and spend the extra $100, but I got my unit in a couple of days. And so, that's your next strategy, I would think, if you want to secure one of these systems and you're not going to, do the day-to-day footwork. And I mean, who can blame you, right? If you have a job and you have kids, even if you're just a student in college, unless you're looking every 5 seconds on one of these sites, you may not get it.
Yeah. And that similar story when I was trying to get a Kingdom Hearts PS4 Pro, right?
Yeah.
I even was gonna give the guy at my local GameStop in South Florida, $50, man. Just call me when they're on pre-order, man. I'll drive. I live like 3 minutes away. I'll drive right over, I'm trying to say, and pre-order it, and still wasn't able, because I think stores are getting like 1 or 2. So I'm with you on that, man. If you got to pay a little bit of a premium, so I think I'm going to be able to get in on a pre-order. I've been real lucky to get in on online pre-orders. PS3, I was able to. I was working in a data center at the time. I was setting up a brand new site, so I had, oh man, faster than gigabit, right at the back. It was the AT&T data center, so I was able to get in and out like a thief in the night on Walmart and do a pre-order on a PS3. So I think I'll be able to get lucky and get one from either Best Buy, Target, or GameStop, 1 or 2. Try to say, and stay tuned, right? And I'm not a flipper, man. So all those guys that are watching on the replay saying, he's gonna flip one on eBay for $1,000. No, it's not that. If I get one, we're a household here with we're a household of 5, and we got 6 Nintendo Switches. So go figure, right? Yeah. So anyway, so getting off, the PlayStation and stuff like that, right? The current gen systems and stuff like that. I know you wanted to get on and talk, and we'll segue into that, because we got a lot of people that subscribe, a lot of people that subscribe to the channel, a lot of people that visit the channel that are into esports, love esports, right? I definitely wanted to bring you on to talk about that, because I know that's a passion of yours. I know that you have a lot of inside information. You have a lot of experience with it, and it's something that we here at the channel haven't really had a time or a chance to do that yet. We will, with my son who's into that. Me right now with a day job and everything like that, that takes up so much of my time. Really don't have a time to get into the esports scene. I keep getting invited by my buddies, right? Earlier in a couple of early episodes too, to get on even on the mobile ones, right? The mobile, Call of Duty and stuff like that, right? Only one I do is mobile Madden. I'm nice as hell in that. You know what I'm saying? I'm in a top, 100, top 50 ranked league, and one of the better players on the league. But get right into it, Bill.
Yeah, and so esports is interesting, right? Because video games are the one medium where I feel the entry point is available for anyone, right? So regardless of your physical prowess, you don't have to be a genius. You don't even have to be someone that's been playing forever. It's something that you can start, and if you have a passion for a game, a specific game of any genre almost, there is a league out there for you. There's someone that set up a small tournament somewhere for you to play. And when you think about the numbers on the Sony side, right? Sony has 103 million PSN subscribers. I
Nice.
think Microsoft is right behind there with 90 million, and these are numbers all as of I think January 2020, right? And so when you think about that amount of people connecting every day, right? The difference with esports is that, like the NFL, right? You only have space for the NFL, and that's it, right? Or baseball, you only have space for the top tier. You can't erect a stadium for every single league that you want to build. But in a virtual world, which is where we're kind of moving towards, right? You can erect as many leagues and as many stadiums as you want. So there's a huge opportunity, not just from a business perspective, but just from the consumer perspective. You can be a coach for a league that, even though they're not top tier, there's no shame in being, in the middle, right? And yes, everyone wants to see the professionals, right? But the professionals weren't always professionals. They started somewhere. And so there is a desire for folks to watch the underdog, right? To see the underdogs. And it's why we watch college basketball, right? Because you watch the NBA and you're like, yeah, you have your teams with, but that fire that's in college basketball, you don't see, right, in the NBA anymore, because they've already been tainted by millions of dollars and the celebrity fame that comes with it. And, it's all about the contracts, and it's more of a business and less of the game, right? And so, I think that there is this market that's brewing, and we were trying to do this at a company that I was at before, especially in Latin America, where that market is blossoming like crazy. I mean, we're talking about Mexico, Brazil specifically, have huge gaming markets that focus on FPS and fighters, and they're eager to create these small little tournaments themselves, and they don't have an ecosystem that's been built out for them. And the thing is, I think once either Sony or Microsoft or someone else becomes smart enough to focus on this, and don't get me wrong, maybe they are smart enough. I think that they're worried on their launches, but this is where it's going to be next, right? You're going to be an esports player, and you don't have to be top tier, right? You can just be, have your day job and play 2 hours or 3 hours a night, and it's still esports, right? And companies that are spending money, like advertising dollars, Activision, all those folks, right? They create these tournaments. Why? Because they want to keep their brand going. They want to keep it proliferating. But when you look at where the industry is going as a whole, right? Say YouTube, for example. They're pulling money away from the top YouTube stars, right? And they're starting to say, hey, you know what? Someone like, and I don't mean to call her out on purpose, but someone like Sniper Wolf costs a lot of money to get to back your brand, right? But they're like, if I can just put my money in folks that have 10,000 subscribers, 20,000 subscribers, it's going to cost me a fraction, and I'll start reaching a new audience that didn't capture before, right? That space is already proliferated and filled and done. Like they're tripping over each other in the higher levels, and so that's also going to open up the door for these esports. And I think the companies are going to start saying, hey, you know what, let's invest in the smaller groups. Let's make the AAA divisions, let's make the AA divisions, and let's start growing them. And it's gonna be a wonderful thing, honestly, to be a part of. And setting up tournaments is hard, but I've looked at the contracts as of, I want to say, last year, right? And I've noticed that the big companies like Blizzard, right, Activision, are kind of opening up their doors more for the smaller guys. Like, it used to be really hard to set up tournaments because of the, you had to pay for the licensing for the IP, and now they're releasing a lot of the things that was making it difficult, for a small time either company or a program to set things up. And it's untapped space, honestly. What if you could set up? What's your favorite multiplayer game right now?
Right now, multiplayer. Geez, I honestly, I gotta say it's quick fighting games, man. Because sports, I love the sports, but playing a game of Madden, 25, 30 minutes. Fighting game, I could fight a couple of fights, win or lose a couple, and then pick it up later on when I got more free time. So I'd say fighting games right now.
So what if there was a persistent local league, right, in your area, right? You're in Florida, in your county, that you could be a part of.
Oh, definitely.
And always play.
Definitely. And I
And
think what you're saying right now, Bill, is spot on to what Sega announced last week as revolutionary or whatever for the gaming. And then people's like, what? Because they don't understand it. But I think what you're saying is perfect, because if you can do that and it be things on a CPS2, right? Like back in the day,
yeah,
and you had it out there, and an arcade owner still people take the game back home, right? Or portable. I think that's huge, man. So I'm with you. I agree.
yeah, and we're there. We're there. When you look
Yeah.
at look at where Microsoft is, and I choose them not because I have a preference, but because I know more folks there, and I have more information that than most people do, and so that's why I'm choosing them to speak on. They say they want to double their gaming user base, by 2025.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about, we have 2.5 billion gamers right now in the world. They want to see that number closer to 4.5 to 5 million, and we're talking about in 5 years. That's insane. And we have the technology now. If you've used their game streaming platform, their preview, and I've been fortunate, I made it into the beta, and I've been trying it. I've been playing Gears on my phone, and Killer Instinct, and all these things, and I feel like we're finally there where you can unplug from your console, walk outside, sit in the park, and on your 5G device you can pull up your game and it'll feel like you never disconnected. And it's not like the technology is brand spanking new, right? We've been doing this in Steam for years now, where you have installed on your laptop and your desktop, right? And you take your laptop on the road and you plug in, and boom, from the cloud, we download your save file, all your info's there. It's the same with mobile games. If you play like mobile Call of Duty, you log in through Facebook, right? And once you log in from any device, it knows what your rank was, it knows where you were, it knows what unlocks you have, what gear you have. So this is not something that is new. This has been there for a while, and I think technology has finally caught up to allow players to take advantage of this. And that being said, like, you can have a league in a coffee shop, right? Your whole team can be in the coffee shop with your phones, a couple of game devices, and latency free, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And that's exciting.
No. And man, we could talk about this stuff, Bill, for days, because you're spot on, right? Like this is seeing the forest for the trees. This is where the future of gaming is going, right? I think they're extending the life while they transition from people thinking about physical media and going digital, and because people forget. And that's why we definitely, we're running out of time right now, but we definitely got future shows to keep talking about this onto the lead up of the next gen, right? Because I think we're in for a lot of surprises on this next gen. I think like you said, Xbox, Microsoft, Sony, PlayStation, and Nintendo probably is going to fall behind, man. They haven't even figured out how to get online chat, right? So they're going to fall behind when it becomes this because, right, think about the PS Vita, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. That came initially at launch with 3G built in, but it was supposed to be, and I always get these mixed up, but the reason you really couldn't play online multiplayer is 3G. So they made it where it was asynchronous, I guess, where it's just one, as opposed to, right? But now you talk about 5G. Oh my God. You're going to have 5G up in the air, right? You're going to have bandwidth that's better than 90% of people's home connections, right? And even then, I'd probably say even higher than that. And as they keep maturing that technology, right, and tweaking and adjusting, so you can get streamed to any device, right? Yeah. And the processing power, it's insane. With the glasses that people are going to come out with, right? You saw that technology 5-6 years ago with Google Glass, and now with Apple's coming out with theirs, the HoloLens, and stuff like that. It's going to take gaming to new heights, and I think it's going to have a lot of ramifications on a lot of things that we're accustomed to that people aren't going to like from the change standpoint. But the numbers are showing that more people are buying digital than physical, right?
Yeah.
And more people are not caring. Like me and you were Street Fighter fans. You said you've owned it on every, and I believe you. And I'm sure you owned it on iOS and Android, right?
Yep.
Where now where Capcom abandoned it and never updated it, so you can't download it on your phone. So I can't download Marvel vs. Capcom 2 or Street Fighter 4, even though I own them, right? And they don't care, and I lost my money. So I understand the argument from a physical standpoint if I had it physically, right? But at the same time, there's so many games that, you know, were physical that you have a copy that there was some way you needed to activate it, right? You needed to remember back in the day, PC gaming, number to get a code, right? You can't call that number now. I could give it to you, Will. I could say, hey, here, borrow this, man, play this game.
You know, it's funny. I don't think that physical will completely go away. I think it's going to become an enthusiast, you know, circuit. And you see this now with games that started off as digital, and you have companies like Limited Run that release physical copies with collector's items. You know, they'll release like 1,000 or 2,000 copies, and then that's it. And then it goes back to another, and you have to get it through Steam. Yeah. But, you know, I think like, so guys like you and me, we're going to end up having to buy those things because I love having physical media. I think it's, you know, I love the box art, you know, there's just something about holding it and knowing that it's actually yours. But don't get me wrong, I do love being able to take my laptop anywhere, right? And I have, you know, 300 games that I could download at any given point and, you know, start right where I left off. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think you could have both, right? Like, you know, all the first party games with Microsoft, if you buy the media digital on the Xbox One, right, you get the PC version for most of them too. And that's a nice thing. Yeah. And so like, you don't get that with the physical media, right? If you buy the physical, like you're buying 2 copies. And so I have been pulled in certain instances to buy the digital version because of the ease of access. Yeah. And just the ability to duplicate my efforts, you know, on multiple systems and devices. And now with the streaming services, it's even more insane, right? Because now I can have that whole collection on my phone too. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's like I said earlier, right? We got 6 Nintendo Switches in the house for 5 people, right? And then Nintendo's got to figure something out for family sharing, right? But I got 2 physical copies of Animal Crossings, and then the digital one on 2. You know, so the odd man out is me. You know, so I can't have a damn island and anything like that, right? Because I got to buy another physical copy if I want to play Animal Crossing.
Yeah, and don't get me started on that. It's the stupidest thing ever. I don't understand why. Like, you know, everybody here in this house plays Pokemon, right? And I have multiple, like I have a Switch Lite, I have the regular Switch, right? Yeah. And to not be able to transfer my save data from one to the other is ridiculous, especially this day and age. But you know what? Nintendo leans on the fact that they just do such an amazing job with their first party titles. There is just this love for almost anything that they release that is their creation, right? I mean, we can complain about it, but you know what? Who's gonna be one of the first people out there buying Breath of the Wild 2? This guy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Animal Crossing, I knew about the save stuff, and I bought 2 copies. So you can laugh at me because I wanted 2 islands, and it's pretty sad. But you know, I wanted to play one on my TV, you know, on my Switch, which stays docked all the time, and then I use my Switch Lite when I'm on the go, and I wanted to be able to do that whenever I wanted. And so they will no longer be able to lean on their first party titles if, you know, the big guys like Sony and Microsoft keep, and I don't want to say big guys, right? Nintendo's are huge. You know, they've doubled their profit thanks to COVID. Let's be honest. You know, the Switches are sold out everywhere. You know, I think they just started coming back in stock. You know, Animal Crossing sold something like 13 million copies, I think, in the first like 6 weeks. You know, so they, you know, but they're getting comfortable, and you know what happens when you get comfortable. We've seen it. That's what happened with.
It happened to them over and over again, right? Yeah. With stuff. So yeah, with the Wii U and things of that nature. But you know, that's one thing. You know, real quick, and I know we run out of time, but with the Nintendo Switch, the other thing is, because you said something, you have 2. So when you want to play on the go, you can do the Switch Lite, the other one docked. You know, so my wife wants to be able to stream, and you can't do that. We've got
On the
multiple
Lite.
cocktails in the house, right? You can't do that. But then from my perspective, again, it's something where, geez, they don't have the software on there that can just, you connect to your Twitch, right? Or you connect to YouTube to be able to stream directly. I mean, it can record what, like 30 seconds back or something like that. So it's like, dude, you can't figure out online chat. You can't figure out, they got to get it together, man, for the next generation, or they're going to have that lull, you know, again, because essentially, right, isn't the innards of a Switch. And I know you had one, I believe, on day one and did a video like that, an NVIDIA Shield.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, dude, it's already, we're talking all these teraflops and everything like that. So, but with that said, Bill, where can, you know, everybody find you and everything like that? You know, tell them where you're at on social, YouTube, and stuff like that.
So have a lot of things in the works right now, but right now, instantly, you can find me at ThatGameDragon on Instagram. We have a show we're working on. We're trying to pull that together. So coming soon, hopefully within the next month or so. And, you know, Will, I would love to invite you to that as well. You know, I can't reveal too much about it, but it's going to be awesome. You know, and we're going to discuss things like this and you know, kind of disrupt the industry a little bit. You know, make people a little nervous, I think. And so, yeah, for right now, just find us at ThatGameDragon on Instagram, and you know, my links to Twitter are right there too, and you know, our YouTube is going to be redone again, so that channel's kind of being worked on. So, and I'm hoping that this isn't the last time we have this conversation, because I think we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely have, you know, more shows. We got this is weekly. We got episode 10 coming next week. We've just hit a little over 3,000 subscribers. Right, we had a couple of great videos that showed up. We had you know, Lily did an unboxing on the Link's Awakening kind of box. She did. We had one on a mystery box from GameStop, and we started and kicked off into High Gear, our retro unboxing series. So we did one on Game Gear, an original Game Gear. We did one on an original TurboGrafx 16. As you can imagine, we got a lot more coming in that series for the remainder of the year. Stay tuned to the channel. We got news coming. We'll have more of these weekly. We'll have special guests. We'll have Bill back on, right? And we're going to be doing some promotions too, man. We're going to give away, like we said, a Nintendo Switch. They're hard to find, a Nintendo Switch Lite. We'll give away when we hit 10,000 subscribers. We got a little promo we're going to do over the next week or something like that on some Sugar Fina Nintendo candies that are like sold out everywhere. But we've had one that we are doing an unboxing on, and we're going to end up giving it away. So anybody that missed out on that, you know what I'm trying to say, can get some of those tasty treats, man. I picked them up when I was in New York at the Nintendo store. You know what I'm trying to say? I posted a picture that shows, you know, some looting, which is bad. You know, they broke some glass at the Nintendo store, but I picked one up when I was there because they had some at the Nintendo store, and also right there, that's Rockefeller Plaza. I know, Bill, you still live in New York. They have. I don't know if they still do. Underground, they had the Sugar Fina store there. So I was able to pick up some stuff while I was there and bring it back down to Orlando. So with that said, guys, you know, thanks for everybody that's watching live. Thanks for everybody that's going to watch the replay. Thanks to my guest, Bill. You know what I'm trying to say? And see you guys next week. Take care.
Take care.